Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice. I'm super excited to talk to you today because we're going to have a show that is going to inform you, it's going to inspire you, and it's going to motivate you to make some fabulous changes in your life. My guest today is Tam Templeman. Tam is so passionate about transformation inside and out. Most recently, she founded a community called Reclaim Your Space, where she guides people to turn their homes into beautiful, healthy, highly functional spaces that can fulfill their needs and their desires. While she's trained as an interior designer, her superpower is truly seeing people in a holistic way that includes their physical environment as an extension of their self. In the words of one of her clients, if you'd like to be in the presence of someone who will guide you through clearing your space in a way that includes emotion, imagination, embodiment, and radical non-coercion, Tam is your gal. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to bring on Tam on Dela's Voice. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Tam.
Hi, how are you? Oh, thank you so much.
Excellent. You know what? I'm so excited. Honestly, I was so excited to talk to you today because I just love what you're doing. I think it's important. I think it helps people improve their lives. And I, for one, am looking forward to learning so much from you today. So, Tam, let's take a moment and make sure that we are both streaming on Facebook because we want absolutely everyone to be watching this show. I just know that people are going to get so much benefit out of this. So if you're watching this, welcome to the show. Please make sure that you share this talk. Tam has so much knowledge in the field of reclaiming your space. I can't wait. Okay. All right. And so please give us comments. Make sure that if you have any questions, put us in the comments sections and Tam will answer them for you. Okay. So with that, Tam, welcome to Dela's Voice, and thank you for giving me your time and giving the audience your time. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for the introduction and for your generous and kind words. I received them. And yes, I'm also very excited to be here in this space because I'm just so excited about what's been growing in my new Facebook community. I say new, it's about 7-8 weeks since I launched it.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And it's a culmination of a very, very long period of really trying to understand, like, how do all the parts of me crystallize into one thing that I get to offer into the world? How do I really get to serve people from my zone of genius and not just from a zone of excellence, right? Like, what is really my superpower? And so I love that, you shared that in the bio, that piece of the bio, because it's something that's really only becoming clear to me very, very recently.
How come? Tell me about that. I'm interested to know.
Yeah, it's a good story. It's a good story. I spent a lot of time doing things that I'm good at, but not things that necessarily really fully fulfilled me. And I think that when we're in our zone of genius, we're doing something that comes so naturally to us that it's almost like easy. And we see, because it's so easy, we don't value it very highly.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. So I started, so here's a story. So COVID and the shutdown of many industries, including the construction industry and the remodeling industry, and where I am in New York and New Jersey, is really what launched me into this. But I started playing with the concept of design in a virtual space over a year ago. And I started reaching like an audience that was global. It was a small audience, but it was global. And I thought, how can I support people all around the world with their homes if I can't actually physically go to their space? How can I support people all around the world, like with design or with ideas or with problem solving? And so I started testing it out, and I had a really beautiful group of friends who like volunteered to show me a room in their house. And I did a bunch of these sessions on Zoom. And so I started giving people insights into why their space might not be working for them, or when they were really stuck on something or had some trouble with an area, like a trouble area, I would just look at it and give them an idea. And then it was their job to go and implement that idea. And then they would report back to me like, oh my God, this worked so well. I never even would have seen that. Like things that to me seemed so obvious. And I remember getting off one of those calls and being like, but it's too easy. Like I can't even, like, how do I don't even know how to value that, because it just feels so easy to me. And it was reflected back to me that's where you get to be. It gets to be easy, right? Like we get to be in a space where things can flow a little bit more with more ease, and when we're offering really true value. And it was valuable to them, even though it's easy for me. So it's been very important piece of my journey to just step into that sense of ease that I can offer with so much generosity, and that can still feel easy. And that's been a huge shift. So that's where Reclaim Your Space kind of started, was that I realized, oh, what I had been doing was running a home remodeling business that offered a complete design build service. My partner and I co-founded this company in 2007. So I've been doing that for 13 years. And how we would explain to people what we did when I was doing sales, I would explain to people like, you're about to undertake the most stressful, immense project, like experience of your life. It's a huge investment. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things that can and will go wrong, but don't worry, we're going to handle it for you. We're going to handle all the hard things. We're going to take on that stress for you. And so you can just relax through the process and enjoy the transformation. And I could do it, right? Like we were good at it. We are good at it. The company is still running, and I'm just slowly transitioning out of it, but we're good at it, right? And so sometimes when you're really good at something, you think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so you keep doing it, and then you realize, but it's not bringing me that level of joy that I'm looking for, and it's so hard all this. Like it's immensely just taking a toll, because it's not easy. It's really, really hard. And so when I decided to launch Reclaim Your Space, it was in the midst of COVID. We had to shut down construction, and so I thought, well, let's reopen virtual services. And I had this idea for a 5-day challenge, and I thought, even if like 3 people show up, I'll just do it. It'll be practice. And then like 80 people showed up. Like over the course, it was like a Wednesday to a Monday.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh. And so then I started doing my like Facebook Live trainings, and there was like a dozen people watching live. Comments were like, people were asking questions. People were then going out into their own home and doing the work themselves. Like I was giving them the process and the tools and the encouragement and the inspiration, and they were going out and creating it. And I was thinking, oh, this is so interesting. This is a totally different way to create transformation in people's homes. But like it was easy. It was simple, and it was easy for me, and at the same time immensely powerful. And what I've always desired, like from the beginning. I remember launching the company with my partner, and I said to him, I said, I really just want to work for people who can't really afford renovations in their home. I just want to let's just figure out a model so we can just support like everybody. Because the renovation projects that we do, they're like immense investments. People are typically investing, like the only other investment bigger would be like the purchase of the home, right? So it's not accessible it's only acceptable to a very small percentage of the population. And so I thought, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, now I can offer this at so many different levels because of how it's set up, right? So there's people who can engage with me in my Facebook group for free, and all they have to do is go out and do the work themselves. And then there's people who can dive in a little bit deeper and work with me in a group program. And there's people who can like invest at a higher level and work with me one-on-one. But it gives this possibility, it opens up this possibility to really create what feels more like a movement in a way than an elite service.
I love it. So I want to say a few things here, because I've been holding off till you finished, because I picked up on so many different things. First of all, a true spirit of an entrepreneur you have. Mm-hmm. Because in the midst of something like the pandemic, you didn't just withdraw and say, oh, now what? You thought about stepping out of your comfort zone and actually, even though you say it's easy for you, but you did something different, and that's admirable. So congratulations on that. That's what makes you a true entrepreneur. And then second, you are thinking about offering your service to more people to impact more lives, which is priceless. And that's what makes you a superhero in my eyes, because you want more people to get access to your superpower. I think that's really amazing. So I want to ask you a question. Why is it so important to talk about reclaiming your space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's also, I've just really enjoyed watching as my even my understanding of what I'm doing has continued to evolve over the past 7 weeks, right? Because as I put something out there and then I get feedback and then I see how it creates something more, and I'm like, oh wow, look what's actually happening. This is what I'm actually creating. So again, I'll share a story, which is for my first 5-day challenge. So right now we're in the midst of our second 5-day challenge, which is super exciting, and it's only day 2, so anyone is welcome to still join us there.
So on that, I want to make sure that people know that the link is actually in the comment section. So if you're welcome to go click on that link. Actually, we encourage you to do it. Go click on that link so that you can have access to Tam's free community and start doing this 5-day challenge, which just started this afternoon. I know you just started it at 4 today. So amazing.
Yes, all the replays are available. So anyone who joins today you're not behind. You'd be right in there with us. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's an awesome community. The energy in that community is so uplifting and positive, and everyone is there encouraging each other, celebrating each other, and really showing up like vulnerably and authentically. It's like, it's blowing me away. It's blowing me away. And honestly, like, to start, really what I did was I just sort of set this intention, like, this is the space that I want to create. This is how I'm going to teach this. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on, like what sets it apart, what sets my process apart from other like clutter clearing, because this is like, it's clutter clearing, but it's not just clutter clearing. Yeah, so the story is this, that I went into this 5-day challenge thinking I'm going to teach people how to clear clutter, and then maybe they'll want to work with me on some sort of design or support in their home. But the big picture, what I've been really sitting with throughout like the whole shutdown and everything before launching this is like, I have a bigger vision. There's a bigger message I get to put out into the world. It's about freedom. Ironically, my word of the year for 2020 was freedom. And I found myself under like lockdown, right? Like total isolation, total lack of perceived freedom. And so I really got to dig into like, what does freedom even mean? And I realized freedom isn't just about how I get to live my life. Freedom is actually the medicine I get to share with the world. Like freedom is what I get to teach. And freedom is about taking back sovereignty over our space, like our physical space, but also every aspect of our life. And noticing that like we always have choice. And that when we are able to get access and reconnect with our desire, like, what do I love? What lights me up? What brings me joy? What brings me pleasure? And we're able to access that and then choose to have that, like make conscious choice. I will only allow things into my life that nourish me. I will only allow things into my life that take me higher. I will only allow relationships in my life that where we are both thriving. I will only, right? Like we start to set a higher standard for what we want to create. And so I realized that we learn that, or a beautiful expression of that is in our physical environment, in our home. And so often our home is an extension of our core beliefs that we don't even, like, unconscious beliefs.
Yes. That interests me so much. Okay. Wow. Amazing. So this idea of people now coming to you, how does someone realize that they need to reclaim their space, that there's a problem? How do we know? What are we looking for? What are some emotions? What are some feelings that can probably nudge us? Oh, you need to change a few things here.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because the first step in what I teach is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in shining a light on what's not working, because often we go through our lives very unconsciously, very much by just kind of rote or default. Like we're just moving through our life and we're not even seeing what our environment even looks like. We just keep moving through. And so the first step is awareness. And what I would say is this: there's a few things. If we're talking about your physical environment, like your home, right? If there's any space in your home where you notice that you're just literally not looking, like I had spaces in my home. I still have spaces in my house where, like, I'll walk by and I just won't look at that space.
Oh, so you want to ignore them, do you? You're right. There are some places in my house like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't look there. Okay, that's a good sign.
Okay.
Another sign is there's this thing that, like, every time you engage with it, you feel like stressed out. It can be simple. It can be like a cabinet door that doesn't stay shut. It can be like, a window that when you go to, like, open or shut it, it's like really stiff.
Oh my God.
They're little things. They're little stressors, right? But what we don't realize is that little stressors over time are like, they're chipping away at our wellness, like at our, like, sense of peace in our body.
Can I just say, okay, right when you said that, oh my God, you're so right. Okay, so there's a side table by my bed, and I don't know why the drawer keeps opening on its own, and I keep shutting it, and it keeps opening, and I keep shutting it, and I've moved it, and I've lifted it, and I've popped stuff under the legs. You're so right, because we don't realize it, but that's a little stress that if we're not aware of it, but it's eating away at us.
Yes, it's cumulative.
Oh,
but
you're a genius.
And here's the beauty, though, right? This is where I get really excited, is that the stress is cumulative, but the joy and the pleasure is also cumulative. So if you create even just one space in your house, one small area that every time you look at it brings you joy. Every time you look at it, you're like, oh. It's this feeling in your body of like, ugh, or like, oh.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's also cumulative. And that helps us to gain, like, so we start very small with these practices and this process. You can start in literally like one surface. I have one client who started with the nightstand. It's like, okay, just clear the nightstand, have like you were saying nightstand, right?
Yes.
Clear the nightstand, have like 2 or 3 intentional items that you consciously choose to have there next to your bed every night, all day long. And then it becomes a practice of consistently maintaining it that way that you want it. And here's like the big picture crazy part to me. What's so wild and so powerful, right? I had a client who, well, she's a member of my group, and she did the 5-day challenge, right? And what she did was, in her kitchen, she had a small table in the middle. It was a small kitchen. I think she was somewhere in Europe, so it was like a much smaller kitchen than what we're used to here in the States. And in the center was a small folding table, and the table was covered in objects.
Anything.
Anything. but always covered in objects. And so she used the 5-day challenge to clear that table, find new homes for those objects, or let go of the things that she didn't actually want in her space, etc. And when she cleared that table, she could also fold it up and tuck it away, or she could pull it out and prepare food on it. But here was her feedback at the end of the week. This blows my mind, right, in every way. She said, Tam, you gave me permission to trust my intuition. And now I feel more confident to go out and be more fully myself in every aspect of my life.
Isn't that
You
amazing?
give me space in my house so I don't have to contort myself to move through my home. And now I don't have to contort myself when I move through my life. That is what I do. That is what I teach. And so it's really, really like, it was blowing my mind because I wasn't saying those things, but that's what we access. So I talk about this a lot, that like what I teach is like we work in our physical environment because it's kind of like a ninja move, like in the back door of our unconscious mind. It's like the things that we didn't even realize, the habits, the patterns that we were in, the stress that we were just tolerating for a long time. We didn't even realize how it was affecting us. There's evidence of it in our physical environment, and we don't even know. So when we start to bring and shine light awareness on our physical environment, it starts to create internal shifts for us as well. And it's very, very powerful.
Whew. As you're talking, my attention goes to these little areas of my house. Mm-hmm. There's like that maybe like the wall plug cover that's not that's not on, like, and it hasn't been on for a long time, or there's like a little screw missing off of a doorknob or something like that. And in our mind, in the whole scheme of things, we always feel like that's not important, but it's there, isn't it?
There.
And it plays a role because it's unfinished business and it's eating away at us. This is so powerful, Tam.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's simple, but so powerful. Like some of the things I teach, I'm like, this is so deceptively simple. It's not actually easy, and it's immensely powerful. Like, I also want to say that that each of us has different things in our home that are going to be important to us. Mm-hmm. And so there's also not, what I don't do is I don't teach one way to create a home that is functional and beautiful. There's not one way. It's all about learning what brings me joy, what brings you joy. So you learning about yourself, you learning to tune into your inner knowing and saying, you know what, this is what I want because this brings me joy. So right now in my room, I have like an open closet. I don't have a closet in my room, so I have this hanging bar and I hang like my favorite dresses on this hanging bar. At some periods in my life, I would have wanted everything behind doors. Some of my clients want everything behind doors. There's something about this little hanging bar, which has maybe a dozen of my favorite dresses, and they're in bright colors and different patterns and different shapes. And when I just lay on my bed and I am gazing at it, it just brings me joy. It's almost like a work of art, like a little mini work of art. It's almost like wall decor. It brings me so much joy. But for someone else, that might cause them a lot of stress because it's not like perfectly neat and tidy and minimalistic, and that's okay. The colors that bring me joy are going to be so unique to the colors that bring me joy, or the different textures. I talk about like my son loves, he has a rug in his room that has like the pile on it is like this long, he's like, give me the longest, shaggiest rug you can find. And he just loves the feeling of like rolling, like being on it with his skin. And for me, like I have a rug that has like embroidery, like thread, because when I stand on it with my bare feet, it feels almost like a massage. Like I love the textural aspect of it. Again, everyone's different, but it's also noticing that like we engage with our environment with all of our senses. And again, like we're unconscious of that a lot of the time. So I just start to help people shine light and awareness on, okay, whether or not you're engaging with your space with all of your senses. So what steps can you take to intentionally create a sensory experience in your space that is nourishing for you? And I believe that pleasure and joy is what is nourishing us from the inside out. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Absolutely. I hope this is resonating with people who are watching. Actually, I'm having trouble getting on my Facebook page, so I have no idea who's watching right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you see who's watching? Because I can.
I can see in my watch party, but I can't see in like the initial.
Okay, so I was able to now open my Facebook page. I really want to see who's watching us right now and what are some of the comments and some of the inputs and how do you feel about this? How are you resonating with everything Tam's saying? We collect so many things, Tam, in our lives that are maybe given to us, that we find, that we, and we hang on to them. It's like we're for me. So I'll tell you a story, okay?
I love stories.
Okay, so I've been wanting to purge a lot of stuff from my closet for a long time, and I've always found it really hard to do this. This is one of those things that I've had to work really hard at. So at times I've challenged myself to get rid of 3 things at a time. And so recently I decided that I need to clear my closet. I need to get rid of a lot of stuff. So because I know myself and I know that it was hard for me, I asked my mom to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really good because now I was pulling stuff out of my closet and I would look at it. And if I took 1 second longer, she would snatch it from me and she'd put it in the bags. And so within 10 minutes, I was able to fill up 6 garbage bags full of stuff that we took immediately. We took out of the house, put it in the back of the car, and the next day it was dropped off. I feel so light. I got to tell you, it's not only the amount of space I have in my closet now that makes me happy, but that there's like a feeling of, I feel lighter. What is that?
Oh, it's totally real. That's the thing. First of all, it's it's exactly how this works. And it's really interesting. And I was speaking into this a little bit today on the live training I was doing in my 5-day challenge over on Reclaim Your Space. And I was talking about capacity. So if everything in our physical environment is a reflection of how we move through our life in general, right? I believe that many of us, most of us go through life way beyond capacity. And by capacity, I mean like energetic capacity, like emotional capacity, energetic capacity. We're overworked, we're overstressed. We are always filling our life with more things to do. And I see this in like the idea that like, okay, we have abundance, so we need to have a lot of everything. And actually the truth is the opposite. Because there's abundance, we don't have to hoard and have so much stuff, right? The spaciousness that comes when we do a clearing, or like what you're describing, I teach as a pruning process. So it's like a very quick moving, like go through and just take out the things that you don't love anymore. When we do that, it literally is opening up capacity. It's opening up like some breathing room, some white space, some space for new things to come in, some space to just relax into, like all of that. This is for me right now in my life and how I'm transitioning into this work. It's opening up like time where sometimes I'll just lie on the couch and like cuddle with the dogs for like an hour. And like, that's something I never would have done before. And I'm just like, oh, I can just be. And it's so nourishing. I'm so fueled by that. I feel more at ease in my body than ever before. Right. And you started to talk about this a little bit too, when you were saying about like the little stressors, right? Like we don't even notice them And then when they're gone, we're like, oh, it could feel like this.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Something as simple as clearing the countertop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can affect your mood, can increase your energy. It can give you more joy. It can give you a sense of accomplishment. There's just so much to this, and you're onto something big, girl. So I have a comment from Glenda. Love that. Love that she transitioned during this time. Love her perspective.
Oh, thank you.
I do too. I definitely do too. What is the danger of us ignoring the clutter?
So I'll use an anecdote. I was at Target the other day, which is just a big box store here in the US. And I was shopping for some stuff for my home. And I walked past the greeting card section. And there was this greeting card that caught my eye. And it said, never, ever, ever, ever change. And I just thought, what? That is the opposite of what I think life is about. And so clutter to me, how I understand clutter is anything that is still in your space unconsciously. You haven't thought about it. You haven't chosen consciously to keep it there. It just has accumulated, or you've kept it because of some idea outside of your own knowing and outside of your own sovereignty, some idea or someone else's opinion. So today, what I taught in the group is, I'll share with you guys here, just sort of a little taster.
Yes.
I taught about the word should. That anytime you hear the word should, it's like a flag or like a little beacon light of like, whoop. Should means it's someone else's idea. It's not your sovereign idea. Should is something outside of you, and you have to take a moment at that point and say, is this true for me right now? Because my experience has been that our truth evolves over time. So the truest and most beautiful expression of who we are evolves over time. And if our home is an extension of that expression, our home should also be constantly evolving with us. So the tools that I practice, like in 5 days, you're not going to get your house picture perfect like in a magazine.
I wish.
That's the point, right? The point is not actually, it's not even to get your house picture perfect like in a magazine. Yeah. I tell my folks, I'm like, the magazine pictures, this is how they do it. They take all the stuff and they move it behind the camera. Then they make everything beautiful and tidy, and they take a few pictures, and then the stuff goes back in. It's not real life, right? And then on top of that, they edit the photos. They take out like the blemishes on the wall. They take out that vent that's kind of ugly and in the wrong spot, right? Like we've done so many beautiful projects, and I've done projects where we did a project. It was like a $350,000 renovation of a whole brownstone, like a whole historic home. And we went to do the photo shoot, and there was just mess everywhere. And I just thought, how can you have such a beautiful home and not even maintain it a little bit? And it was just so like heart-wrenching for me, right? But what I realized is that people don't actually have the tools. People don't even have the awareness of it, like of what's possible. And like then when we're not looking at it, when we're dissociated from our space, it's very easy to move through a space very unconsciously and that stuff just builds up and accumulates, and we don't even realize what's possible. And so I will also say what you shared about the story with your mom, it's often very helpful to have a guide or a support and to not always go it alone. So that's what I love about the group environment and running this as like a group experience, is that we have the support of other people who are doing the work at the same time as us. And so we see their struggles, we see their wins, and we feed off of each other's energy, and we nourish each other in a really powerful way. And so I think what I'd like to share is a story about an experience that I had right before I launched Reclaim Your Space. In some ways, it was like the final inspirational moment that really catalyzed it for me and that helped me to see what was possible. And what I love is that it started with a very courageous act. I'm very courageous, as in the courage to be vulnerable. So I got a call one day, this was back in May, got a call one day from my sister. And my sister had gotten married back in October. She'd been married for 6 months. When she moved into the house that her husband was already living in with his dad, like they were sharing a 2-family home, she put most of her stuff, which was still in boxes, into the guest room and left it there. And her husband was starting to get frustrated with the situation, that the guest room was not really usable as a space. There were these boxes there. I think probably on some level, he couldn't even fully understand what the frustration was. It was just frustrating. And she called me and she was like, I just feel really stuck. Now, I didn't know that I supported people in clearing clutter. I didn't, but she knew that like houses and stuff and like my sister, right? So she just reached out and I said, okay, let's get on Zoom. But before we did, we had our first call was just like all about what was blocking her from opening up these boxes. And here's the thing, and I teach this at length in my group, but I also want to say that the process I teach is very, very gentle. It's very gentle because I do see our space and our objects as an extension of our self and of our body even. And there is a lot of energy and emotion that's held in these objects and stories, sometimes stories. And so we get to move very gently through this process because the goal is to nourish ourselves. The goal is to have a nourishing space at the end of it. So sometimes if we move too abruptly or too like we're too rough with the process, we can almost like re-traumatize our system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not useful either, because a lot of the things that we hold on to unconsciously, I think, are remnants of some unresolved stories or trauma that we've had in our life, right? And so she shared with me that when she went in to like start clearing the boxes, there was something on the floor, a piece of paper that was like from a time in her life that was very traumatic. And I thought, and she was like, I can't do this. I can't open up this can of worms. I thought, okay, right. And you get to have your guest room back. Like you get to have you don't have to give up this huge real estate in your home, right? To this trauma, essentially. And so we talked through a lot of that. And then what came up was, and like, I don't even know how to get rid of things. Like, I don't know how to dispose of things, right? And it's like, okay. There was like a bag of rocks that she's been holding on to for years, because she collected them for a certain relationship. That relationship didn't last. And then like, she didn't know how to get rid of them. And she didn't want to, she thought maybe she'd turn them into something else. I'm sharing this because I know that everyone has something like this, right?
My mind is turning right now. What do I?
Right? And it's like, oh, maybe one day they're so beautiful.
Yes.
But they are also kind of reminding me of this terrible relationship. And like, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So all I said to her on that call was like, okay, you take the bag of rocks and you just throw it in the trash. Just let it go. Tonight. Like, that's all you have to do. The only move you have to do. And she got off the phone with me. And then later I got a text. It was a photo of a bag of rocks in the dumpster. And she said, and after I sent you this photo, I deleted the photo. So I don't even have the photo clogging up my space anymore.
It's good.
So that's good, right? And
yeah.
Then the next day we got on Zoom, and I just sat with her on Zoom for like 2.5 hours. And I was just present with her because she's up in Boston. I'm in New York. Like, it's COVID. We can't be together, but we were together. And energetically, I was there with her. And all I was doing was cheering her on. And this is like what your mom was doing, but slightly different. Like, anything that triggers you, you don't need to look at it right now. There's plenty that you can clear from this space that's not even triggering at all. Like, she ended up getting rid of like boxes full of like textbooks from back like in college that like she had no attachment to at all, but they were just mixed in with all this triggering stuff. Right? And so my whole process started to evolve from this, where I was like, oh, okay, we get to move quickly, we get to move broad strokes, swiftly, keep going. But things that trigger us that we're not ready to release, we don't have to force ourselves to release anything that we're not ready to release. And so I have this concept called the archive box. And all of that goes into the archive box. And then the archive box goes into the back of a closet or the attic or the basement or somewhere where it's not impeding in the functionality of your space. And you don't have to open it until you're ready to open it. Or maybe never. I have someone who is saying to me, I put, she was recently divorced after a long marriage, and she said, my wedding photos, like my wedding photo album, I don't ever want to look at it ever again. She's like, but maybe my kids might one day. So I said, put it in your archive box. It's out of your space. It's no longer impeding you, and it's also there because there may be something there for you in the future, or for someone else in the future. It holds stories, right?
I love that. It's so simple. You're so right. It's very simple concept, but it's hard to do on your own. And I can imagine a lot of people can relate to this. So people that are watching, I want to thank you, everyone that's watching. Chrissy and Sharon and Frida and Glenda and Rafi and Navid. Thank you so much. If you can relate to this, give us a comment, and ask questions if you like. I have my own questions.
Yeah. Oh, and I love engaging people in the comments. So it's so fun. So like, this is the beauty of these virtual spaces, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there was a point where I was like, fine, I'll just be isolated from, and then I was like, you know what? If this is going to become a part of our reality, how can we make it feel as connected? And I have a client that I work with one-on-one, and one of our first calls, she was like, I keep forgetting that you're not just sitting next to me in my living room,
Right?
So I think it's the gift of our presence can work in this virtual space, very similar to how it works in real life. It's
I for one love it. Yeah, I love it, because if it weren't for this virtual space, this possibility of me being able to connect with you, I would have never been able to interview you. So I'm very grateful. So okay, my next question is this.
Yeah.
So why do we ignore some things that are happening in our space? I'm thinking about, that step that's leading up from the garage into the entrance of the home, and it's like crooked, or there's something there that even is hazardous, but you step over it, and you get used to stepping over it. But so why do we do that? Why do we ignore things?
Yeah, it's a great question. And basically, my thoughts on it are this: it's an adaptation that's necessary for survival. So, and what I mean by that is not that we should continue ignoring it indefinitely forever. But what I mean by that is that, similar to the archive box, so I'll go back to that, and then I'll circle back to this because it feels connected. So the archive box, for me, is very similar or analogous to how our brain sometimes handles trauma, like big T, like trauma that happens for us. So our brain can actually take those experiences, the memories, and tuck them away where we can't even access them. And the reason that it does that is so that the other parts of our brain can function, and we can function in the world as if we did not have that trauma. And then sometimes an event happens that triggers it, and it comes back to the forefront, right? And then we get to look at it, and typically, ideally, with support, right? So I think it's similar. We can't take on our entire space all at the same time. It's just too much. It's important for us to be able to adapt. And it's also important to shine the awareness and then consciously choose a path forward. Because here's the thing, this is an ongoing process. Like I say, like, this is not a one and done. Like, none of the programs that I teach are one and done. Like, at the end of it, what I want you to have are tools that you can continue to use regularly throughout your life, indefinitely, forever. To care for your space, to tend to your space, to check in, is my space actually reflective of who I am, of what I love, of who I'm becoming? So those things that we can't take care of in this present moment, it's okay to not notice them all the time, because it would just be so much more stressful if we consciously noticed it all the time. And our brain has just adapted. Like we've just literally adapted. So I remember learning this when I was studying interior design and architecture and interior architecture in college. And it was that staircases, there's a code, like a building codes for staircases are very specific. So the height of each step cannot vary more than, I think it's like 1/4 of an inch. So there can be no variation between. And the reason is that as soon as you have taken, I think it's like 2 or 3 steps, your brain has decided, okay, that's the height of the step. And so every next step is automatic. It just happens. So if the staircase has one step that's higher or lower, people would be tripping constantly because our brain has already created a pattern for it. So if we can do that the first time that we step onto a staircase, right, how much more are we going to do that for that broken step that we live with every single day?
Mm-hmm.
And so we adjust, we adapt, and some of those adaptations are supportive, and some of those adaptations ultimately are like blocking us from what's possible, which is something more nourishing, something that works better. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense to me. It makes so much sense. Mehnaz Dehmiri just joined us. Hello, and she says, "Hi, gorgeous ladies."
Hello.
So sweet. Hello, my dear. Hello, and Patricia Force. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about reclaiming your space to reclaim your space, right?
Mm-hmm.
My next question is, okay, so this brings me back to the memory of someone I knew that used to buy a lot of stuff, and then she'd keep them in her room, brand new things like 10 different scarves or like 5 different things, and she kept them in her space, and she never wore them, but she kept them brand new. What's going on there?
Oh, so much possibility. So much possibility there, right? It's so interesting. Obviously it would be more supportive if I could ask her more questions about it. But I've seen a lot of different reasons that this plays out. Some are really positive, right? And some are maladaptive. Some are like not supporting and not nourishing. So here's the thing. There's no right or wrong about it. If that process that she was going through, if that like lifestyle of like, you know what, I saw this thing and it made me so excited and it brought me so much joy and I just want to look at it all the time, so I'm going to have it in my space even if I never wear it. If that was nourishing to her, maybe it was nourishing to her creativity, maybe it helped her to feel safe in her space in a really positive way, maybe it inspired her in some other way. If that is the case, I'm all about it. Go for it. Each of us has sovereignty over our own space. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. Where it stops serving us is when it becomes unconscious, or where it becomes like almost like an addictive pattern, right? Where it's like, it's then I think compensating for a sense of fear. If it's coming from a space of fear or scarcity, then it's most likely not serving us. It's coming from a space of desire and love and joy. Like, I love this thing. I desire to have this in my space. Then I think, why not? I even don't have a problem with like mess. This is interesting, right? I hate mess in some ways. I hate it for myself, for my own space. I hate it. And the truth is, I actually have areas where it is messy most of the time, but it's messy in a way that like my art supplies, like I want to have them out and just around, because when I'm in the middle of working on an art project, I want to be able to just look around and say, okay, what's jumping out at me in this moment? If everything's tucked in a drawer and I can't see it, then I can't just flow with the creativity that wants to come through. On the flip side, in my kitchen or in like the surface, that like if I'm like sitting and chilling out on the couch and what I'm looking at, I would like that to be neat and tidy, because I want to relax in that space and I want to be able to just like chill out and not be having this voice in the back of my head like, oh, look at all the things I have to tidy, look at all the work I have to do, look at all that. So there's not like a right or wrong about it. If clear spaces make you feel more peace and less sense of anxiety in your body, then clear spaces is what you should create in your home. But if luscious, textural, like full spaces make you feel more at ease and safe and joyful in your body, then that's what you should create in your home, right?
So we have a comment from our friend that says enlightening.
Thank you.
I agree. I agree. I have a little comment here and I'm looking back at my own experience with hanging on things, and it's so true that you sometimes you have to go back and see where is this coming from. And for me, I left my home country when I was 13, and I left with literally one suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
So I left a lot of my things, and not just things, physical things, but what truly meant to me a big deal. I left them behind, only to start fresh in a new country. And then again, after a couple of years, I moved again, and I left everything I had amassed in 2 years behind. And then again, I had to start from practically nothing. So I wonder if my tendency to hang on to things for years and years and years stems from the fact that maybe I'm fearful of losing it again. Does
Yeah,
that make sense to you, Tam?
totally. There's always these stories are always behind everything that we do, I believe, right? Everything that we do, there were these formative experiences that happened in our life. Most of them we were really young, but not all of them. And they have generated patterns and adaptations. And the truth is, that's part of who we are. So to me, it's very much about integrating in all the parts of ourselves, accepting all the parts of ourselves, and just asking, like, okay, but is it serving me right now? The present version of me, or who I find myself becoming, or what I desire to create in my life going forward. So if holding on to those things again brings you this sense of safety and well-being, then why not? But if holding on to those things has accumulated to the point where it's impeding the functionality of your space, or it feels heavy and like really like not just not good, like in your body, then that's the time to start looking at, okay, how can I make a different choice? And having an awareness of where that story is coming from is very supportive as you decide, as you choose to create something different, because you can be very passionate in the process, right?
I love that you said, and I've heard that before, when you create space and get rid of things that no longer serve you, you now open up to new flow, new things, new abundance.
Yeah, I have this beautiful story that I was sharing also this morning, because someone was saying, I have a closet full of clothes, and some of them are really beautiful, like dressy clothes, but I never wear them. Like I don't even have any desire to wear them, but I feel like I should keep them because at some point I invested in them. There's nothing wrong with them. And I remember my first 5-day challenge, there was a woman who was finally clearing out like things that she had saved from her children, for her grandchildren. But what the reality was that her grandchildren didn't really come and spend as much time at the house as she had imagined or was hoping. And so that was very like painful for her. So she held on to it. And then finally she decided, okay, it's time to let this go. And so she took this whole box of like books and toys, and she's like, oh, the neighbors have kids about this age. She brought it to the neighbors. The neighbors' kids, like the amount of joy that she sparked for them, right? And so one of the things I teach is that what belongs to you will come to you, but only if you make the space for it.
Oh, I love that. Say that again, please. What belongs to you comes to you.
Will come to you, and you have to make the space for it. Sometimes it's like literally, I think of it as like there's like a gate or like a fence, And it's like pushing at the gate. What the abundance that wants to come in is like waiting, but it can't come in until you make the space for it. Physically, right? Or in every other aspect of your life. And one of the things I noticed that's powerful, and I can only call it magical, because I also love the word magical, is that when we start doing this clearing work in our physical space, things start flowing in other aspects. I've had people where financial abundance starts flowing. I've had people where business ideas start flowing. I've had people where relationships clear up, like other things and other aspects of our life start to flow. And I can't really explain it. I don't tend to, like, I'm not like, there's no scientific understanding that I have of it. But it doesn't matter. It's just like the evidence is showing me that this is what's possible. And for each person, it's a very unique experience. But for me, it's been so powerful. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to clear off my desk. And there was this experience I had where, like, I had just started my new thing, and it was a new PayPal account. So they were holding my money because they didn't trust me yet, right? So I had a client who paid me, but the money was like in limbo in the PayPal world for up to 21 days. And I was like, this is crazy. And it was frustrating, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. So I was like, whatever, let it go. But I could really have used that money in my bank account, right? And so I remember one day just getting ready for a call, and I was like, you know what, my desk, I haven't tended to my desk in a long time. There wasn't a lot of clutter built up, but there were some things, like objects, that were just unconsciously there, right? That had just accumulated, like some Post-it notes that were complete. There were some bits of trash. There were, like, whatever. It was just not tended to. And so I just cleared it. I went through my own clearing process, and I tended to, and I cleared the desk, and everything was clear, and I got on my call. And then after my call, I got an email, and the money had just been released. And it hadn't been 21 days. It had been like 10 days, you know. It was, but like, these are the things that keep happening for me and for the people that are working through this process with me as well. It's just really, really interesting. When the energy is blocked in one area, it's affecting everything. So it's about just moving energy. It's about giving and receiving idea, right? Like, I give, it brings someone else joy when they receive. Now I have space to receive. I actually allow myself to receive. We talk a lot in my group about celebration and enjoying what we've created, so we get to actually receive the pleasure that we created for ourselves. And so then the cycle continues. And I believe this is the cycle of abundance, you know.
Amazing. So, okay, so we have a comment. It's law of prosperity. When you give away money, shoes, clothes, or other items you are no longer using, you get ready to receive your good.
Yes. Play out, right? I'm seeing it. It's like there's a part of me that's always kind of believed it, but I also see it. And I think that this cycle, interestingly, begins with desire. And desire is the piece that, you know, we could talk for another hour, and I see the time. So, but just to say that, like, desire is what we've most, I think, been disconnected from often in our life. We've been taught that desire is dangerous or bad. And what I'm learning to be true is that our desire is leading us towards the things that are most nourishing for us. When we really tune into, like, the deepest desire. Sometimes there is a desire that comes up that's like, we know it's not good for us. So then it's like, okay, what's beneath that desire? What's beneath that? What's beneath that? And there's something at the root of it that is calling us towards something that is really nourishing for us.
Amazing. And so Mehna's saying it's called the vacuum. It's called the vacuum law. The vacuum law. Thank you, Mehnaz. Mehnaz is an incredible individual. She also does a lot of great work, and she uses actually technology, the virtual world, to impact other people's lives in a positive way. She does great work with gratitude. She has actually she does a daily gratitude call. It's just an amazing world that we live in. Can we take people's attention to your community again one more time?
I would love that. So in the comments, I will also go in after the call and just add in some details, but you can go straight to the Facebook group, Reclaim Your Space.
It's right there. It's actually going.
Oh yes, there's right now we're running a 5-day challenge. It started yesterday, but all the trainings are available in the unit section for replay. So you're not late to the party. All are welcome. It's a really awesome community, and the 5-day challenge is 5 days to clear clutter and open up to flow. And so I'll just teach you my process so that you can apply it in real time in one area of your home, and then take it with you and expand out from there afterwards.
Amazing. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to do that. And yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we can all use a little bit of freedom, Tam.
Yeah.
Right? That I can feel how light I'm going to feel after the 5-day challenge. And then I'll come back on here and brag about it.
I can't wait. Awesome.
So thank you so much. And I want to give you a few more minutes, but before we go there, I want to also thank our viewers. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Myrna says, thank you for such a wonderful, insightful talk, ladies. Thank you very much for watching us. And so just a few minutes for you, my dear, to finish off this talk and leave the audience with whatever you like, please.
Yeah. So I think that ultimately the most important thing that I keep coming back to is this idea of sovereignty, that you get to choose. I teach it in every aspect. Like anything that I teach, if it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't feel good to you, just ignore it. And that my process isn't like the right way to do it. It's one way to do it that has been working really well for many people. And so if my approach resonates with you, I would love to have you in my community. I really believe that ultimately, if we all started to feel like safe and free to embrace all the aspects of ourselves, even the parts that we've been taught are scary or bad or dark, and if we could really live from that space of wholeness, I just think it would shift everything in the world. I really do. And I see the possibility that we can each just be a unique expression of human and we could see each other in that light. And so I have a very big vision for what the future could be. And I'm part of the team. There's people all around teaching the same thing. They're teaching to freedom, and we're all just using a different mechanism to get there. So my mechanism is dealing with your physical environment. We have disassociated from our physical environment in a lot of ways. And so it's just about reconnecting in with that and reconnecting in with what it feels like to enjoy your space. It feels like to have pleasure in your body just from being in the environment that you've created with intention and thought and love. So thank you again so much for having me here.
Great vision. Great vision. Great work, Tam. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for thinking of doing this and stepping out of the box. It's fantastic. The world needs people like you, Tam. You know, people who have these great big ideas and they want to enhance other people. This is what we need more of. And so I want to thank you for your positivity, for everything you do. And everybody else also thanks you. Thank you. She found the group and yay, Manas, yay! We're gonna be groupies.
The next live training is in 25 minutes. So.
Amazing. Okay, so with that, if there's nothing else, then I want to invite everybody to join Reclaim Your Space on Facebook. Find Tam and join the 5-day challenge. Time well spent. You're gonna beautify your space, and she'll help you do that. And so I want to thank you again for joining us, and for everyone who's been watching. And I appreciate you. I acknowledge you. I thank you for giving us your time. Take what you want and leave the rest. And if you found this talk helpful, please share it with your loved ones and let Tam's light shine even further. And so with that, this has been Dela's voice, hoping to spark your soul. Till next time, my friends.
Thank you.